In the spring of 1942, the German Air Force began construction on a massive, highly secure prisoner of war camp specifically designed to neutralize the most persistent and ingenious escape artists among the captured Allied airmen. This facility was Stalag Luft III, located near the town of Sagan in what was then Germany. The Germans intentionally chose this particular site because of two defining geographical features that they believed made any successful escape absolutely impossible. The first feature was the vast, surrounding pine forest, located far from any neutral border or major population center, making the overland journey after any potential breakout a near-suicidal undertaking. The second, and more crucial, feature was the composition of the soil itself. The ground was composed of fine, bright yellow sand, which meant that any attempt to dig a tunnel would immediately risk collapse, and that the visible contrast of the excavated sand against the dark ground surface would be instant evidence of a breach. The German military authorities spared no expense in constructing the camp, with multiple layers of ingenious defense systems specifically aimed at frustrating tunnel attempts. The prisoners' wooden barracks were intentionally elevated a few feet above the ground, making any attempt to start a tunnel under the floor instantly visible to patrolling guards. Furthermore, the German guards regularly used specialized seismic microphones driven deep into the ground to listen for the distinctive sounds of digging. The perimeter itself was guarded by high barbed wire fences, multiple heavily armed watchtowers, and a lethal, tripwire line known as the Warnschusslinie, warning shot line, beyond which any prisoner was shot without challenge. The security was total, and the message from the German Air Force was clear: Stalag Luft III was escape-proof. However, the prisoners housed within these secure walls, primarily officers from the Royal Air Force and the United States Army Air Force, were not common soldiers. They were highly skilled, fiercely intelligent men who viewed escape not merely as an opportunity, but as a sworn military duty under the Geneva Convention to continue the fight and tie up valuable enemy resources. Immediately upon arrival, an internal, unofficial organization was formed, dedicated entirely to the purpose of mass escape. This secretive, highly disciplined operation was headed by Wing Commander Roger Bushell, a brilliant, charismatic Royal Air Force pilot who was already notorious among the Germans for his repeated escape attempts. Bushell was a leader who demanded the impossible and inspired total commitment from his fellow prisoners. Under Roger Bushell's ruthless and disciplined command, this clandestine organization became known as the X Organization. Bushell demanded a singular, audacious focus. They would not attempt a single, small-scale breakout, but a massive, organized mass escape of hundreds of men. To achieve this impossible goal, the X Organization decided on a strategy of ultimate deception and engineering. They would begin digging 3 strategic tunnels simultaneously. These tunnels were quickly and secretly codenamed Tom and Harry, with the third tunnel serving primarily as a storage and observation shaft. The ingenious strategy was simple. If the Germans discovered one tunnel, the intense focus on searching that area would buy the necessary time for the remaining tunnels, particularly Harry, to be completed, guaranteeing the ultimate success of the mass plan. The commitment to digging 3 strategic tunnels, Tom, Harry, and the third storage shaft, demanded engineering ingenuity that was unprecedented in prison history. The immediate problem faced by the X Organization was the ground itself. The fine, pale yellow sand of the Stalag Luft III site was the German Air Force's ultimate defense. It was notoriously prone to instant collapse, especially when dry, and the massive volume of excavated sand posed the immense, constant risk of detection. This fine sand, known internally as the powder, had to be meticulously shored up and removed, requiring a complete overhaul of the prisoners' resources and organizational structure. The prisoners devised ingenious solutions to make the tunnels structurally sound. To prevent the inevitable collapse, they had to secretly steal over 1,000 bed boards, essential wooden slats from the prisoners' own barracks bunks, to line the entire length of the tunnels. This theft was a high-risk operation in itself, as the boards were counted regularly by German guards known as Barretts. Furthermore, they solved the critical issue of ventilation. They designed and built specialized air pumps, or bellows, from stolen kit bags and discarded wood, connecting them to air ducts made of powdered milk tins and running them hundreds of feet into the tunnels. This system was vital for providing breathable air and allowing the men to dig for hours deep below the surface without suffocating. Equally brilliant was the system devised for disposing of the massive quantities of excavated sand. Each prisoner dug out over 16 tons of sand during the operation. The men responsible for disposal, humorously nicknamed penguins, carried the yellow sand in small cloth bags or sewn into the legs of their trousers. They would then discreetly walk the paths of the compound, scattering the sand in small, undetectable amounts while disguised as men taking an afternoon stroll. The success of this system required constant, fierce vigilance by the X-organization's security teams, who would distract the guards and immediately signal a warning if a German patrol approached a disposal penguin in the camp yard. The internal manufacturing effort within Stalag Luft III was astonishing, effectively creating a secret, specialized factory. The prisoners created hundreds of specialized tools and items entirely from scavenged materials. Small, functional oil lamps were manufactured using recycled sardine tins, wicks made from old shirts, and fuel supplied by melted margarine, providing the only illumination deep underground. They built wooden rail lines and small carts, or trolleys, which were essential for rapidly hauling sand, tools, and even exhausted diggers through the narrow, twisting tunnels. This vast, secret, and highly organized industrial effort demonstrated the unwavering commitment of the Royal Air Force officers to their massive, complex plan. The X organization, under the formidable leadership of Wing Commander Roger Bushell, was far more than just a digging crew. It was a vast, meticulously structured clandestine operation mirroring a major military headquarters. It was organized into highly specialized departments that managed every single aspect of the escape. These departments included security, intelligence, surveying, disposal, and, most incredibly, a fully operational manufacturing department. Hundreds of Royal Air Force officers, each chosen for a specific skill, from engineering and tailoring to espionage and forgery, were expertly assigned to a branch, transforming the entire Stalag Luft III camp into a secret factory dedicated entirely to achieving freedom. The security department was the unit's central nervous system. Its primary role was tracking the precise movements and behavioral patterns of the German guards, who were aptly nicknamed ferrets because of their relentless, intrusive searching for tunnels. The security team established a sophisticated network of lookouts and alarm systems, utilizing complex hand signals, carefully designed code words, and unique taps on the barracks floor to immediately warn the diggers below of an impending search or the approach of a German patrol. This constant, high-level vigilance was absolutely vital, as any lapse in security would instantly expose the entire operation and lead to severe collective punishment or immediate transfer to a concentration camp. Two of the most crucial and demanding departments were forgery and tailoring. A successful breakout was utterly useless without the means to survive in Germany, meaning the men needed convincing civilian clothes, identity documents, and travel papers. The tailoring team performed miracles, transforming drab German Air Force blankets and scraps of uniform material into surprisingly convincing civilian coats and trousers. Simultaneously, the forgery department created entire sets of passes, travel permits, and identity documents using scavenged paper, smuggled inks, and hand-carved printing blocks. This operation was one of the most dangerous, as the discovery of a single forged passport would have instantly led to severe, collective punishment for the entire compound. The surveying and logistics teams provided the unseen mathematical precision necessary for the tunnel's success. The X organization realized that if the tunnels exited even a few feet short of the final perimeter fence, they would be immediately exposed to the machine guns in the guard towers. They invented specialized, silent compasses from melted vinyl records, rulers made from scavenged pencils, and custom-built protractors to maintain the tunnel's direction and depth. This immense, collaborative effort transformed the prisoners' intellects and scavenged materials into the functional tools of escape, proving that the greatest obstacle to the German guards was the collective, organized genius of the imprisoned Allied officers. By the late summer of 1943, the combined, organized efforts of the X organization had resulted in remarkable, silent progress. The two primary escape tunnels, Tom and Harry, were models of clandestine engineering, reaching impressive depths of over 30 feet below the surface to safely bypass the German seismic microphones, and stretching steadily toward the perimeter. Hundreds of tons of fine, yellow sand had been meticulously removed and secretly dispersed by the penguins across the compound. The sheer scale of the entire operation was a triumph of discipline, morale, and unified effort, leading the prisoners to believe that their plan for a massive breakout was within confident reach after months of intense, grueling labor. However, the relentless vigilance of the German Air Force security staff, the Barretts, finally paid off. In September 1943, a German guard noticed a suspicious anomaly in one of the barracks, a slightly darker patch of ground or a faint movement near the base of a stovepipe. Upon investigation, the ferret quickly uncovered the meticulously concealed entrance to the tunnel. Tom. The discovery was a massive, devastating setback. Months of intense, dangerous labor, including the risky construction of the entrance shaft and the sophisticated underground trolley lines, were instantly lost. The prisoners' immediate fear was that the discovery of one tunnel would lead to a systematic search that would expose the remaining tunnels, Harry, and the storage shaft. The German response was immediate and brutal. The guards initiated intense, punitive searching and widespread interrogations across the entire compound, attempting to find the location of other secret tunnels and identify the key ringleaders. The prisoners, however, maintained an unbreakable silence, relying on the meticulously planned deception to protect the remaining project. Recognizing that the cover of the initial plan was blown, Wing Commander Roger Bushell immediately ordered all remaining resources and all available manpower to be concentrated on the single remaining viable tunnel, Harry. The original plan to use 3 tunnels was now reduced to a desperate, last-chance gamble on one. The final push for Harry began in earnest, demanding renewed commitment from the exhausted men. The tunnel had to be constantly deepened and strengthened to prevent collapse, and the work continued relentlessly throughout the harsh winter months of late 1943 and early 1944. The conditions underground were freezing, claustrophobic, and often wet, pushing the physical limits of the diggers. Despite the immense setbacks and the greatly increased German scrutiny, the X organization set a final, unwavering target date for the mass breakout: the cold, dark night of March, when the chances for a large group of men to escape notice in the deep forests would be at their highest. With the disastrous discovery of Tom, all hopes of a mass escape now rested entirely on Harry. The surviving tunnel became the singular, consuming focus of the X organization. Wing Commander Roger Bushell doubled down on the efforts, demanding more speed, more stealth, and more resilience from his already exhausted men. The tunnel, now stretching hundreds of feet towards the external perimeter, became a subterranean highway of desperate labor, operating around the clock, even as the harsh Central European winter descended upon Stalag Luft III, making the underground conditions even more brutal. the engineering challenges for Harry became immensely complex in the final months. The tunnel was long, narrow, only about 2 feet in diameter, and incredibly deep, around 30 feet below the surface. Maintaining proper ventilation over such a distance was a constant struggle, often leaving the diggers gasping for air in the suffocating darkness. The ingenious air pumps, made from scavenged materials, were pushed to their absolute limits, requiring continuous maintenance and repair. The risk of sudden collapse in the fine sand was ever present, making every foot of progress a perilous gamble that relied on the integrity of the stolen bed boards and the unwavering courage of the tunnelers. To prepare for the actual breakout, the X organization initiated a massive, covert manufacturing effort within Stalag Luft III. The forgery department worked ceaselessly to produce hundreds of convincing fake identity papers, travel permits, and ration cards, all essential for the escaping prisoners to blend in with the German civilian population. The tailoring department, using stolen German Air Force uniforms and carefully smuggled civilian clothing, transformed drab military materials into a diverse array of convincing civilian outfits. Every detail, from the stitching to the authentic-looking creases, was meticulously crafted to ensure the escapees had a chance of passing as ordinary travelers. As the spring of 1944 approached, Harry finally reached its projected exit point. The X organization's surveying team, using their makeshift instruments, had calculated that the tunnel would emerge just beyond the perimeter of the camp, safely past the warning wire and the reach of the guard towers. The final stages involved digging a vertical shaft up to the surface and creating a sophisticated, concealed trap door for the exit. The date for the escape was set, the night of March 24, 1944. The plan was to send out 200 men, a massive number that would completely overwhelm the German defenses and create enough confusion for a significant portion to get away. The night of March 24, 1944, was cold and moonless, providing perfect cover for the audacious mass breakout from Stalag Luft III. The plan, meticulous and ambitious, involved 200 men, each equipped with forged documents, civilian clothes crafted from scraps, and a small ration of emergency food. The chosen escapees, divided into groups, had practiced their roles for months, memorizing German phrases, civilian identities, and escape routes. The entire camp was a hive of controlled, silent activity as men waited for their turn to descend into the cramped, dark confines of Tunnel Harry, the culmination of over a year of desperate, secret labor. As the first groups began to exit the tunnel, a critical problem immediately became apparent. The surveying team, despite their incredible efforts, had made a slight miscalculation. Instead of emerging directly into the deep, dark woods beyond the perimeter wire, Tunnel Harry surfaced just short of the tree line, a mere 10 to 15 feet from the edge of the forest and dangerously close to a guard tower. The exit was partially visible to the patrolling German guards, creating a terrifying, death trap for each man who emerged. This unforeseen complication severely slowed the escape, forcing men to crawl silently across open ground and wait for the precise moment when the patrolling guard turned his back. Despite the immense risk, the escapees continued to emerge. The plan quickly fell behind schedule, and the sheer number of men waiting in the tunnel for their turn caused severe bottlenecks and increased the pressure on the diggers below. The X organization's security teams, positioned inside the barracks, maintained constant vigilance, using their intricate warning system to signal any approaching danger from German guards. Each successful emergence was a small, silent triumph, but the agonizing slowness of the process meant that hundreds of men would likely never make it out before dawn. By early morning, 76 men had successfully made it out of Tunnel Harry. They were now free, but found themselves scattered across the dark, freezing forest of Germany, thousands of miles from any neutral border. Their escape outfits, meticulously crafted from scavenged materials, provided little warmth against the brutal cold. Armed with their forged documents and a desperate hope for freedom, they dispersed into the vast, hostile landscape, attempting to blend in with the German civilian population and make their way towards the distant, elusive safety of Allied territory. The Great Escape had begun, but the most perilous journey was just starting. The success of the mass escape was tragically short-lived. At approximately 5 a.m. on March 25, 1944, the final escapee of the night was spotted near the exit of Tunnel Harry by a vigilant German guard. The massive alarm was immediately raised across Stalag Luft III. The furious German Air Force Command quickly confirmed the scale of the disaster, realizing that a stunning 76 highly skilled Allied airmen were now loose in Germany. The discovery was not merely a security lapse, it was a profound, strategic humiliation for the German Air Force and the Third Reich itself, demonstrating their inability to control even their most secure facilities. The German response was immediate, overwhelming, and ruthlessly punitive. A massive national manhunt, known as the Grossfahndung, was launched. Tens of thousands of German Air Force personnel, local police, Gestapo agents, and border guards were quickly mobilized across the entire country and occupied territories. Every train station, railway line, and major roadway was flooded with searching personnel. The prisoners hastily made civilian clothes and forged documents, crafted from scavenged camp materials, provided little protection against the intense scrutiny of the German authorities, especially in the cold light of the morning. The high initial number of escapees quickly dwindled. The vast majority of the 73 recaptured prisoners were betrayed, spotted because of their foreign accents, or quickly identified because their poorly dyed clothing and hastily made papers failed forensic examination. Many were caught waiting for trains or attempting to cross borders. The entire nation was essentially turned into a massive, extended prison, proving that while the X-organization had solved the immense engineering problem of escaping the camp, they could not solve the political and geographical problem of escaping Germany. Ultimately, only 3 men achieved true, long-term freedom: 2 Norwegians and 1 Dutchman, who managed to reach neutral Sweden or Spain with the aid of dedicated underground resistance networks. The vast majority of the recaptured prisoners were returned to Stalag Luft III for interrogation. The incredible initial success had turned into a tragic tactical failure for the prisoners, but the audacious nature of the breakout had struck a massive blow against the enemy's psychological security. The humiliation caused by the mass breakout was felt instantly at the highest levels of the German high command. Adolf Hitler, personally enraged by the profound security failure at Stalag Luft III, immediately ordered that all 73 recaptured prisoners be summarily executed as a brutal lesson to others. Although this extreme order was slightly modified by Field Marshal Hermann Göring to preserve a thin facade of legality, a devastating war crime was nevertheless committed. The original mastermind, Wing Commander Roger Bushell, who was the driving force behind the entire operation, was among the first group of prisoners pulled from the returning ranks. Under the direct control of the Gestapo, and in brutal violation of the Geneva Convention, the Germans carried out the systematic murder of 50 of the recaptured Allied officers. The prisoners were taken out in small groups and shot along remote roadsides or in isolated fields. The official German excuse, delivered to the camp command, was that the prisoners were shot while resisting arrest or while attempting to flee after recapture. The planned execution of the 50 officers, including Roger Bushell and many of the key tunneling engineers and organizers, was a chilling act of political revenge aimed at crushing the spirit of the remaining prisoners and deterring any future mass escape attempts. The immense sacrifice of the 50 executed officers did not go unanswered. Immediately after the remaining survivors were returned to Stalag Luft III, the Royal Air Force secretly launched an extensive and meticulous investigation into the massacre. After the war, the Royal Air Force Special Investigation Branch spent years hunting down the Gestapo and German Air Force personnel responsible for carrying out the murders. Many of those found responsible for the mass execution were successfully tracked, tried for war crimes, and ultimately executed, ensuring that the murder of the 50 prisoners was met with accountability and justice. The ultimate legacy of the Great Escape is profound and dual-natured. While the loss of 50 officers was a tragedy, the operation successfully achieved its core military objectives. It tied up thousands of German Air Force and Gestapo personnel in the massive manhunt, distracting them from the true front line for weeks. More enduringly, the story of the tunneling, the engineering ingenuity, and the collective will of the Royal Air Force prisoners became a powerful global symbol of the unbreakable human spirit. The Great Escape remains a testament to the fact that even within the highest security prison walls of the Third Reich, the desire for freedom and the commitment to the fight could never truly be confined.